Thousands of years ago, complex technology which bridged the gap between the physical world and the spiritual world was developed in Iraq, Egypt, Mexico, and European megalithic sites such as Stonehenge. Buried deep inside sacred mounds of earth in Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, in Egypt, in Iran and Iraq, and also buried deep under the pyramids of Mexico, we have discovered statues of very strange demons. Alongside these statues are other artifacts which resemble the components of electrical circuits, such as the Jed pillar, which looks suspiciously very similar to a Tesla coil. In the ancient world, electricity was being generated using batteries filled with acid vinegar, and these devices created a flowing energy which was used by the Illuminati royal families of ancient Egypt, ancient Iraq, ancient Britain, and ancient Mexico to make psychic contact with spirits, angels, and demons. These devices in turn inspired the greatest scientists of the modern world, some of whom were members of secret societies which hosted seances in which ectoplasm and technological apparatus were used to show us images of the spirit world. All this technology was kept utterly secret. Welcome to the world of forbidden electrical, psychic, spiritual technology. Welcome to the world of forbidden TV. My name is Chris Everard, and I travel the world investigating psychic, spiritual, and technological secrets which the ruling elite have kept secret for thousands and thousands of years.
We're here at Dendara, which is the temple of Hathor. And Hathor was a goddess, and she was the goddess of intoxication, and she was the goddess of magic. And it's one of the few temples in ancient Egypt where the ceiling is still intact. And on this ceiling we see some very, very strange creatures, who I believe are the Ogdoad gods. There were 8 Ogdoad gods, and they were in charge of the creation of not only our planet, but the entire universe as well. There were 4 Ogdoad male gods, and they had the heads of frogs. And there were 4 female Ogdoads, and they had the heads of snakes. And in the Ubaid period, during the Babylonian Empire in Sumeria in ancient Iraq, we also see figurines which resemble very closely the figures which we see here in ancient Egypt. When you travel into ancient Egypt and you see these giant temples, what you're really seeing is an architectural, amazing achievement. And the only reason that these temples were built is for magic and ritual and ceremony.
There are vast numbers of badly made YouTube videos of people stumbling around various ancient sites, and they are usually selling you some kind of crackpot theory which has been cobbled together by stealing bits of information from other authors. In this film, we analysed the pyramid texts. These are the original creation myths which inspired the construction of vast temples, many of which were aligned to the stars and designed for summoning various spiritual entities. Like most kings and queens, the Egyptian pharaohs stabbed and slashed their way to power, and often invoked evil demons to place curses on their enemies. The spirits of dangerous and poisonous animals such as cobras, crocodiles and vultures were used as family emblems by the pharaohs, and they employed Judeo-Satanic pagan Babylonian mystics to bring plague and disease to their enemies and the crops of their enemies. Now, in return for their riches, the pharaohs built huge temples, shrines and pyramids, and these were there to thank the hundreds of spiritual entities which they invoked. Their most prized offering was incense made from opium, hashish and the pressed oil of the blue lotus of the Nile, which is a psychoactive herb. In my book Stone Age Psychedelia, I showed toxicological data from various museums which prove that the kings, queens, priests and magicians of ancient Egypt were intoxicating themselves with psychedelic herbs and mushrooms in order to amplify their telepathic communications with the spirit world.
The Temple of Dendara is one of the few temples which has an intact ceiling, and the ceiling still retains some of its original colours. Behind me are the giant columns of the Temple of Hathor, and as I said, Hathor was the goddess of intoxication and magic. And a lot of the decoration and carvings and paintings which you see here were actually put here and renovated by the Roman Emperor Tiberius. And he was one of very many foreign invaders who came to Egypt. But instead of crushing and suppressing the actual worshipful priesthoods which populated this temple and many others along the Nile, he, as an emperor, absorbed the actual culture, and he actually extended some of these temples, and the Roman emperors tried to kind of amalgamate their belief system with multiple gods with the belief systems of ancient Egypt. And they very much saw themselves as pharaohs. And in actual fact, Alexander the Great was even crowned as an Egyptian pharaoh. And in this temple of Hathor at Dendara, we see some very strange amphibian humanoid creatures, which I believe are the Ogdoad, the 8 creator gods of ancient Egypt. There were 4 male humanoid amphibians. That means that they had the bodies of humans but the heads of frogs. And there were 4 female Ogdoad who had the bodies of females with the heads of snakes. And on the ceiling above me, we see very, very strange combinations. We see the gods seated on their thrones, and the thrones are usually square. And very often, the square throne resembles a false door. A false door in Egypt is really a door between the physical and the spiritual worlds. And the thrones very often resemble these false doors which we find in the tombs where the pharaohs were buried. Either side of the gods, and by the way the gods have blue skin, we see erectile snakes, but they're not cobras. They're not the cobras which we see typically in the uraeus headdresses. We also see these amphibian snake creatures with human legs, and they have human arms, and they're holding small pots. And what I believe is in the pots is some kind of offering, maybe some kind of incense, some kind of oil, whatever it is, it's being offered up to the god. It's a very, very strange scene. It's like a scene of the underworld, and the erectile upright snakes are demons. And it seems that every Egyptologist and every guide has a different view of what these things are. So what we can do is we can just basically say some basic things, some basic observations about what we're seeing here. We can say that the snake amphibian beings with human legs are not Sobek. Sobek is a crocodile. We can say that they're not cobras, which is what we see on the uraeus, which is the headdress of the pharaohs. We can say that maybe they're demons, and maybe we're dealing with scenes of the underworld or scenes of the spirit world. Whatever it is we're seeing, it was very, very important. And when Napoleon came here, he came here with draftsmen and architects, and they only bothered to really draw the panel of the ceiling above me.
Cannot understand ancient Egypt unless you understand magic, and you cannot understand magic unless you also understand how spirits are summoned in magical rituals. Spirits of ancestors, spirits of angels, spirits of demons, and spirits of even planets were invoked and summoned in the ancient world. There are thousands of gods, angels, and demons in the mythologies of the ancient world, and the religions were all based around festivals which were hosted on certain days of the year when the planets, constellations, sun, and moon were in the correct astronomical alignment, which helped to bring forth a spirit during the rituals held in these giant temples. Many of the people and figures depicted on the ceiling of Dendara are priests who are wearing the masks of gods. In Egyptian mythology, a person's soul would shapeshift from normal human form into a composite human animal form as the soul passed into the spirit world. In ancient Arabia, many of the most powerful spirits, which commanded legions of demons and angels, would appear in the mind's eye of the magician in a certain type of form. For example, Lord Baal would appear with 3 heads, and the spirit known as Oribas would appear as a man with a lion's head holding a snake in each hand. The images of the gods would be interpreted from the curling incense smoke which filled these temples on festival days. In order to amplify these images of these gods and to enhance telepathic abilities, the ancient Egyptians used the hallucinogenic blue lily of the Nile. They also used opium, and they also used hashish. In my book, Stone Age Psychedelia, I dedicate an entire chapter to how cocaine alkaloids have been discovered in the body tissues of King Ramesses. Hallucinogenic plants and magic mushrooms were used by many of the magicians in the ancient world, and the pharaohs employed shamans and magicians from Babylonia and some Jewish magicians as well, and these magicians helped them gain messages from the spirits. In fact, the cow became a sacred animal in India because magic mushrooms would grow in the cow poo, and many religions have retained symbols of psychedelic plants and mushrooms in their ritual costumes. In ancient Egypt, the royal crowns feature the shape of a hallucinogenic mushroom. And one crown also shows the tendril of a hallucinogenic morning glory plant. But this tendril design also relates to ectoplasm, which is a substance that many witnesses have seen emanating from psychics whilst their bodies are possessed by spirits.
We still do not clearly understand exactly what many of these carvings and hieroglyphs mean. There were basically 3 or maybe even 4 phases of development of the hieroglyphic language. In today's world, the hieroglyphs are more or less kind of assimilated into English alphabet, French alphabet, and our modern alphabets with, say for example, a picture of an owl meaning the letter M. But here at Dendara we find hieroglyphs which no Egyptologist can actually agree on its meaning. They are not in the normal Old Kingdom hieroglyphic alphabet, and they're most certainly not in any of the other kingdom hieroglyphic systems. What we also see, very strangely, down in the crypt is we see pharaohs and other characters with inscriptions by the side of them which don't only look like hieroglyphs, they look like some form of box that contains some form of symbolic technology, rather like an old stereogram that has strange symbols on the front of it. Now, deep down in the crypt of this particular temple, we see some of the most mysterious scenes ever. We see these kinds of light bulbs where the base of the light bulb takes on the form of the hallucinogenic blue lily of the Nile, and inside these so-called light bulbs there are serpents. What I believe they could be is they could be the equivalent of Crookes tubes, which were designed by Sir William Crookes, who was president of the Psychical Society for Research in London. And he was really interested in the ether. And William Crookes was one of the pioneers of radio. He was friends with Sir Oliver Lodge, and Sir Oliver Lodge was a colleague of John Logie Baird, who invented television. It was really the fusion of radio technology and visual technology that brought us the 21st century.
This is a Crookes tube invented by Sir William Crookes. Sir William was one of the pioneers of investigating radioactivity. Indeed, he was the first person in history to identify that a plasma was a fourth state of matter. There can be no denying that the carvings in the crypt of Dendara really do resemble a Crookes tube. Here is a very, very rare photograph of Sir William Crookes with a psychic lady in London. He did actually have an affair with a psychic medium, and he was a great believer in the psychic abilities of several mediums who were living in London. And this is John Logie Baird standing, and seated Sir Oliver Lodge. They were the colleagues of Sir William Crookes, and the three of these people are responsible for the invention of radar, the discovery of cathode rays, the invention of television, and the invention of infrared vision. Sir William Crookes was the president of a psychical research society in London, and in their library they have many interesting photographs of ectoplasm taken under low light conditions. This particular photograph shows ectoplasm emanating from a medium's body. The ectoplasm wraps itself around objects in the room like the tendrils of a plant. The Enigma channel is rather like WikiLeaks, except instead of reading documents about secret subjects, you'll be watching documentary films. There are literally thousands of hard-to-find TV shows and video files which were deleted from public sharing video sites years ago, all on the Enigma channel. It's an amazing library of knowledge. And top researchers and top authors upload their videos to the Enigma channel first before they upload them to social media and social video sharing websites. Signing up for an account takes less than 2 minutes. It's just a small donation once a year, and that is a gateway for you to have uncensored information and professionally made HD documentaries every single day of the week. Go to enigmatv.com or our members site enigmachannel.com. The official history books tell us that before this amazing complex of buildings at the Saqqara site was built, that basically the architects of ancient Egypt were just building with reeds and wood and timber and things that just fell to pieces. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, this amazing site at Saqqara was actually created. And about a 10-minute walk along a causeway from the Step Pyramid, you come to the Pyramid of Wunas, which is basically a pile of rubble. And inside you have the pyramid texts, and the pyramid texts have been translated terribly. There are literally thousands of translation mistakes, and the reason for that is because the translators know absolutely nothing about how spirits and angels and demons are summoned in magical ceremonies. And of course, ancient Egypt is all about magic. Here's a good example. This is a literal translation. You shall summon your Ka, being Osiris, and he shall defend you from any enraged one of the dead. Well, let's just put that into proper English. First of all, what you do when you summon a spirit is that you usually have a familiar spirit, and that's a regular spirit that is the go-between between you and the spirit world. And in this case, the pyramid texts are saying that Osiris can be your go-between between you as the mortal physical magician and the spirits that you want to summon. Now, obviously, spirits are a continuation of the personality of somebody who's died, and therefore you get happy spirits and you get angry spirits. And basically that quotation there is saying that Osiris is your familiar spirit and he can defend you if you summon an angry spirit. Now, of course, the other very, very important piece of information that comes through from the pyramid text is the existence of the Ogdoad. These are the original 8 creator entities. They're non-physical entities. Now, the word Ogdoad is only used once or twice in all of those pyramid texts because they use a special term for them, and they are called the Great Ones. They represent 3 major strands of DNA. They represent human DNA, reptilian DNA, and amphibian DNA. And inside the Pyramid of Wunas, at the Saqqara site, we see the Ogdoad and also many other demons being referred to as the Great Ones or the Old Ones, and this is the exact same terminology which eventually became used in the Bible to describe the offspring of giants called the Nephilim. In Paris, and also at the Berlin Egyptological Collection, opium has been found in the body tissue of many kings, queens and priests of ancient Egypt. Orthodox archaeology ignored this discovery until it was discovered that opium pipes, just like those pipes used by junkies in China, were actually carved into Egypt's biggest temples. The biomedical tests on the body of King Ramesses clearly show that he was high on opium for many years of his life. But the X-rays and tests on his stomach contents go way beyond discovering just opium. Doctors who tested the mummified remains of many Egyptian kings and queens also found hashish. The tests were repeated and it was confirmed that hashish was eaten in ancient Egypt. The cannabinoids prove that hashish was imported from Syria. Stone Age psychedelia is the most in-depth investigation into the kings and queens of the ancient world. It's a book which is far more than just about drugs in the ancient world. It proves that the richest families who ever walked the face of the planet gained their riches by dealing in opium, cocaine, hashish, and tobacco. Stone Age psychedelia proves that the psychedelic experience is at the root of all religions. Stone Age psychedelia proves that the pharaohs were junkies. Stone Age psychedelia is available exclusively with a free DVD documentary film from ChristopherEverard.com and also from ChristopherEverard.co.uk. Now, the pyramid texts contain hundreds of spells, magical spells, which have mostly been badly translated, like I say. And it is absolutely amazing how we've ended up with thousands of books about Egyptology, and 99% of those books are not about magic, because the root of all the magical ceremonies in ancient Egypt revolved around the skill of choosing an auspicious day according to astrological alignments of stars, and then using that to your advantage and summoning a spirit so that you can communicate with that spirit in the spirit world. The description of the Ogdoad at the Pyramid of Wunas very much resembles the clay figurines found buried inside ancient mounds of earth in Iraq. There are also ancient figurines resembling the Ogdoad in Japan, which date back to the Jomon culture, which flourished 14,000 years ago. Clay masks from Iraq clearly show the human reptilian features of these gods. The Ogdoad were 4 female gods which had the heads of snakes that were married to 4 human male gods which had amphibian-styled heads. Each couple represents the male and female aspects of human, mammal, amphibian, and serpent DNA. One of the male Ogdoad, called Amun, was highly respected in ancient Egypt, and he was worshipped in his own right at the temples and pyramids in the ancient world. Osiris is mentioned alongside the Ogdoad in the pyramid texts, and his skin is greenish blue like an amphibian. In fact, the Osirian temple is a megalithic, truly ancient structure which predates most of the pyramids, and it was constructed at Abydos as a symbolic home for Osiris and the Ogdoad. The Osirian temple has niche side chambers that are permanently filled with groundwater and are the perfect habitat for these semi-amphibian gods. The male gods were all depicted with frogs' heads, while the goddesses had the heads of serpents. They lived deep in the depths of the mysterious Ocean of None. The Ocean of None represents the primordial global ocean from which all life came from. The Ogdoad brought forth order from chaos with the evolution of cellular life forms which grew into the mammal, reptilian, and amphibian life forms which populate planet Earth to this day. Thelema is the Greek word for willpower, and it is the willpower of the Ogdoad who created a Cambrian explosion that caused the first primeval mound of Earth to emerge from the global primordial ocean. These basic cellular primordial life forms crawled out of this ancient ocean and began populating dry land. All over planet Earth, we now see tumulus mounds of Earth at Avebury, Stonehenge, in Korea, Japan, and all over Neolithic Europe. The Great Pyramid itself is anchored to a natural outcrop of land, and all these places have figurines and statues and megalithic dolmens which are carved to resemble the faces and bodies of the mysterious Ogdoad gods. Inside the Pyramid of Unas at the Saqqara site, we see the Ogdoad and other demons being referred to as the Great Ones and the Old Ones. This exact same terminology eventually became used in the Holy Bible to describe the offspring of giants called the Nephilim, and they had sex with earthly mortal women in the book of Genesis. But it goes way deeper than this. The ceiling at the Temple of Dendara shows that there are other kinds of non-physical spirits which the priests and pharaohs summon during their ceremonies. These are represented by all kinds of strange creatures, such as cobra snakes with wings and devilish-looking crocodile beasts. There are literally thousands of these spirits, and many of them have questionable personalities. They are able to create evil deeds, such as making someone go blind using a curse written in that demon's name, or are capable of doing good, such as using angelic energy to heal someone. The primary evil force was represented as Apophis, a giant snake from the underworld, who is also known as Apep. And it is amazing that planet Earth is going to be threatened over the next few years by a giant asteroid which is going to come closer to planet Earth than at any other time. It's going to pass between the Moon and Earth, and this giant asteroid could impact with planet Earth. And it has been named Apophis. Now is the time for you to get involved. There are many mysterious secrets being censored from the public, and you can help spread this information by taking 2 seconds to share this clip and engaging your Facebook buddies in conversations and debates. Maybe you're doing a college degree right now and are disappointed with the narrow world view of your teachers. Well, by clicking the share button, you can strike up a debate with museum curators, archaeologists, scientists, authors, and even your college teachers. Just click that share button. There is a longer, more in-depth version available on the Enigma channel. The Enigma channel is like WikiLeaks, but instead of reading documents about secret subjects, you can put your feet up and watch thousands of fascinating documentary films covering subjects which have been censored and suppressed from the mainstream media for decades. The Enigma channel is a 100% independent TV network with documentaries and TV shows which are not available on YouTube, not on Netflix, and are unique to the Enigma channel. If you would like to join one of our filming crews and go on an expedition to the ancient world, then you need to visit the Enigma channel website. That's enigmachannel.com, or you can visit the members site at enigmatv.com. Use the contact form and write the word expedition in the subject heading. In exchange for a small contribution towards our filming costs, you will actually become a member of our crew. You'll be eating with us in the same hotels, you'll be travelling with us, you'll be meeting all of the authors and people which we interview. Now, every year we are filming at amazing museums in places like Athens, Paris, Madrid, Barcelona, New York, Mexico, Egypt, you name it. You'll get to stay in haunted castles. You can visit haunted pubs, you can be taken on moonlit walks around London, and we visit many ancient cities. Our expeditions include lectures about things like Nostradamus, the Cathars, the Illuminati, Nikola Tesla, the Vatican, paranormal research. Believe me, it's a lot of fun. So what you do is you contact us via the Enigma channel websites. It's enigmachannel.com or enigmatv.com, and we look forward to meeting you and look forward to inviting you as a member of our filming crew. Thank you very much for watching this episode. And if you head over to the official website, which is forbiddentv.net, you'll be able to download X-rated late-night versions of this show which investigate voodoo and Jack the Ripper. And you can also visit the Enigma channel and get a subscription and watch literally thousands and thousands of documentaries like this that I've produced over the years. My name is Chris Everard. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode, and we are going to be visiting Iran, Syria, Tibet, Nepal, India, Spain, France and Germany in the upcoming episodes. See you then.